What did you buy with the 1031? You told me that you bought in multiple markets. Tell me about that.
So I thought, okay, maybe I should spread my bets a bit. So I did invest with 3 different turnkey providers, and I bought 3 different properties. And one is fine. It's kind of still going. I just had a turn on it. It's been a nightmare, but it's now tenanted. So that's happening. The second one was essentially a fraudulent transaction. That was the reason why I didn't come back and reinvest. So it did cost me because I lost a whole year of not investing because I was dealing with this and I really wanted to understand what happened. And then I invested with JWB, which was smooth sailing, knock on wood. It just stays the same way. So I had the worst possible experience, and then I had, I think, what is the best possible experience. So I had the spectrum at the same time.
You said you got a PhD in real estate in that terrible experience. If you got a PhD in real estate, what are the names of the courses? What did you get schooled on?
Well, one of them was how not to buy fraudulent property, right? Actually, one of the major lessons I learned from it, and it's so funny because I had an attorney and everything, but it's understanding how to use your resources also. I bought a property, and this was the only property that was not fully rehabbed. When I identified it, it was being rehabbed. And the turnkey provider that sold it to me, they said, hey, don't worry, 2 weeks left, that's all. So every time I checked back with them, it was another 2 weeks left. And by that time, I had already identified it. And like an idiot, I did not identify a 4th property possibly as a swap, right? And so I was stuck. If I didn't buy that property, my exchange would have fallen apart. I would have been taxed on that part of the capital. So we came to the point where I had to close the exchange, and it was still the same story of 2 weeks out. So I said, okay. So they suggested, listen, why don't we just put an addendum and say, here are the things that need to be fixed, and we'll sign off on it and you'll be fine. And they had come referred to me by somebody very reputable. And I thought, who had done business with them for decades. And so I thought, okay, that's fine. And so I did. I went ahead, took the plunge, and bought it almost on the same day that I bought the JWB property.
What's the lesson there? If you went with somebody that was referred, that had vetted, I'm hearing the lesson of identifying a 5th property just in case, right? If it isn't done in time.
Yeah, I don't think you should ever buy a property or put a property under, probably even in the identification period, put a property. Well, see, that's a tough one because the property I identified with JWB was under construction. Things could have gone really wrong, right? But I think if I had identified another property at the same time, I would have had a little bit more leeway to not go with one that was not rehab by the time it came to closing. That was the biggest thing.
We talk a lot about the difference between turnkey and real vertical integration of having all these trades in-house and having a certain critical mass of 100 people working for you and the footprint that JWB has. Is there anything to that? Is there anything
Absolutely right. Pablo, you're so right. Because actually, when you look at JWB and you see the operation, for starters, it feels like one cohesive company. The communications are consistent. So I think you're right. You can tell when you're dealing with somebody that's more organized and on the ball. But I didn't know what I didn't know then. I didn't know that difference at that stage.